a fish in there! Is it a big one? Yes! There's a fish in there!
This series, we're touring the mecca of colossal carp.
A pomme de terre.
France.
Mwah! Magnifique.
We'll travel the length and breadth of the country with just scaly beasts on our minds.
I'm blown away. Blown away. This is true insanity.
I'm Ali Hamidi.
That is an absolute donkey.
I'm Tom Dove.
What is going on?
And I'm Neil Spooner.
Grand fromage.
Together we'll scour the country's spellbinding options.
Let's do a little countdown.
And we'll pick the ultimate venues with the biggest brutes.
Mind-bending targets will be set.
We're knocking it up to 70 pounds.
PBs will be shattered.
In our biggest ever monster carp.
Oh my God, I'm nearly falling in. That is massive.
Our grand tour of France had just begun. This country is best known for the Eiffel Tower, the Mona Lisa, vineyards, champagne, cheese, and romance. And our deep love affair with French carp was the reason for our trip.
Our largest ever king carp was caught in France, and a fish known as the German, at a monstrous 79 pounds. It's also home to one of our greatest ever captures.
Cannot wait to get started. The last time I came to the south of France, obviously something pretty special happened.
You smashed your PB! It's done! I Cassian!
Managed to leave Cassian with not only a personal best, but my first 70-pounder.
I've caught the biggest carp I've ever caught, and potentially the biggest carp in the lake.
It'd be lovely to think there's a repeat performance on the cards.
As for Dovey, well, he wasn't part of the elite 70s club, and his record was just a feeble 66 pounds. Luckily for him, some of the largest carp on the planet can be found in this beautiful country, and we felt we just had to come back.
Coming to the south of France is the slog, but the jewels are there to be had. And this is like you're heading for a World Cup final.
And our opponents are huge wild carp found in the south of France at one of the toughest venues we'd faced, Lake Carces.
At a massive 250 acres, this damn lake twists and turns following an old riverbed. Its rocky banks, snags, huge weed beds, small nuisance fish and humongous catfish stand in our way of victory.
This lake is a special place. It's going to be no pushover, but there are some big and beautiful carp in here, and I cannot wait to get going.
With 25 that go over 55 pounds and a current lake record of 83 pounds 12 ounces, this is why we are here. But with a low stock, finding them may prove difficult.
Caught loads of water in here, lads, eh?
She looks a little bit dry.
I'll tell you what, I don't fancy setting up over there on them rocks.
No, whoever gets that has had an absolute stink bomb, haven't they? Basically on a cliff face.
One advantage, though, are these low water levels, which means less places for the carp to hide. Location is key. And as a starting point, we have 3 known big carp swims held for us to choose from. And if any of these aren't producing bites, we can move at any point.
The first one is in the narrow part to the south, and while not having much water in front of it, what it does have is large banks of weed and snags, and is a known holding area for large shoals of carp.
The other 2 are located in the middle section, with one catching all of our eyes and is best described as Paradise Point. With its commanding position controlling the most water, an abundance of features and a comfortable, flat, warm, south-facing grassy bank, this was top of all of our wish lists and is where we have gathered to decide our fate.
We've got a little draw on our hands.
Oh, I love
1,
the
2, 3 in there.
preparation.
Self-explanatory.
I'm going to go for that one there. It's going to be number 1. Oh, it's not, but you know what? I'll take number 2, middle for diddle.
It was now all down to this. It was either last pick or paradise point.
Pick the wrong one, go on. Pick the wrong one.
Do you know what
Pick
they
the
are?
wrong one.
Oh, that's a really difficult thing to do. All right.
Oh.
Please, please, for once, let me have the dolly.
What are you laughing at? No! No!
I'm on my holidays in here, I think, lads.
I think, is it fair to say you're going in here?
Well, I'll see. But
yeah.
we'll have a little look around, but almost definitely in here, yeah.
Honestly, more options than Weight Watchers. And other diet plans. There are others out there.
I'm just going to have a wander.
No, preferred choice. See the cliff face over there? It's an absolute liberty.
Dovey may have played it cool, but there was no fooling us. He jumped at the chance to be in the most lordy swim that this lake has to offer.
Well, I did pick the holiday swim. It is lovely and flat round here, and it's going to be beautiful to fish here, but that isn't the reason I've picked it. The reason I've picked it is because I've got so many options here. I've got the really deep water around to my left, and I've got the shallow water around to my right, and leading all the way down towards the shallow water is loads of weeds. So that's a really good holding area for carp. And as I've been standing here, I've seen a couple of fish jump out, so it feels really, really good.
Spooner, with his second choice, has also opted to fish in the main body of water.
I've looked at all the swim choices that we had. Dovey is in Palatial Point. Mine's pretty tidy as well, nice and flat. Ali, I've never known anyone to have to abseil into their swim. Good luck, mate.
Oh, I should have brought a barra. Come down here, lovely.
Ali's swim couldn't be more different to mine if it tried. With its steep leg-breaking, ankle-snapping, cold, north-facing, rock-hard bank just metres from the road, this has got to be one of the most uncomfortable swims we've ever fished from.
I do know from a very good friend that fishes here a lot that this particular spot does a lot of big uns at this exact time of year. So, local knowledge, they're never too far wrong, are they?
Big carp were clearly on all of our minds, but our first day had quickly come to an end. Strict fishing curfew rules meant that night fishing was only allowed at the weekends, but with special permission from the local club, we were granted access to camp on the bank for the duration of our trip. So, our fishing would start in the morning.
I don't know what all the fuss about. Cosy Rosy down here.
With 13 days of fishing ahead of us, our thoughts were firmly focused on our starting approach, and we knew the tactics would be key to our success.
We've learnt now from fishing these big European venues that the biggest obstacle is not clever, riggy carp. It's often nuisance fish, and the nuisance fish here aren't just a bit of a nuisance, they're a massive nuisance. So I've got a huge hook on there, a size 2, and a huge boilie as well. I'm going to put another little pop-up on top of that. So the main thing is that these go out there and they sit there until a carp picks them up, and it's not going to get pushed around by little fish. The hook isn't going to get blunt, or they're not going to take the little hook bait off. So it's not about being intricate, it's about being big and bold, actually, here.
Talking of bold, Ali, up in Boulder Bay, is also preparing his rigs and was starting with the same spinner rig as Dovey, but mixing up his hook baits with large 24mm boilies and also rings of tiger nuts. As well as spinner rigs, I was also using combi rigs, which incorporates a stiff boom and a supple braid close to the hook, and tipping them with wafters soaked in a high-attract liquid.
To accompany our rigs, we're only adding a small amount of free offerings to entice a bite at a time. This will hopefully avoid attracting the catfish onto our spots and scaring the carp away.
As good as these starting tactics are, positioning the rigs is going to be vital, especially with all this weed about.
I've tried to hedge my bets a little bit to get started. I've got a rod down in the margin over a scatter and a boilie. I've got one long out in open water where I've seen some fish show just with the bait boat and a little spreader bait. And then I've got 2 up tight on a clean area next to a weed bed. All areas that carp love to patrol, and at some point, I hope they do.
I decided to fish close in with 2 rods this side of an old riverbed at about 70 to 80 yards and the other in a hole in the weed to my right. Ali was also going to be taking advantage of the weed beds in his swim.
Oh, that's the last of the bait. Very confident on 2 rods. They're down towards that woodwork, those trunks sticking out, so carpy, and I have seen fish show there, and I've heard fish. They're the 2 rods I fancy the most. The other 2 are fishing in the old riverbed, just up against that weed, the surface weed, as it starts coming up. Really fancy them. Don't quite fancy them the same way, but if something does happen there, it could be something big. That's my prediction.
We are all taking advantage of the weed beds in our swims for good reasons. Weed is a natural habitat for carp and they love it. As well as offering shelter and protection, it also offers natural foods, and during the daylight through photosynthesis, it expels oxygen, creating a rich, oxygenated environment for the carp.
Having dense weed in front of you can add its own problems. Hooking a fish might be the easy part. Landing it could be something different altogether.
With all this in mind, just to catch a carp would be a great start, but we're here to catch monsters, and our first target is to land a wild 40-pounder. This will be no mean feat.
I did have a premonition about this trip, and I think Tom and Neil are going to catch the most. Not sure if they're going to catch one of the biggest down there. I feel like if I get... I'll definitely get less action in this particular area, but I fancy something big could come along. Who knows? I'd like to be the one who catches the biggest, I won't lie.
After all the hard work and preparation on our first full day, our actual fishing hours were limited and no carp were caught. Following the law of the lake, the rods came in 30 minutes after sunset and we had to wait till the morning to get going again. Just 30 minutes after the rods went out, completely unexpected, my long spot in open water was away.
Navigating a carp from the large, dense weed beds is key, so by walking back up the bank to gain a height advantage and change the line angle can hopefully stop the carp from getting snagged up.
Honestly, every bite from a new lake, especially somewhere as epic as this, I'm shaking. I can feel my heart pounding. My knees are knocking. You can hear it in my voice.
What a start. First morning with the rods out. And we're into a fish. Happy days.
He's doing everything you want a big fish to do. Slowly kiting. He's up in the water. I'm fishing my lead to come off on the bite. I don't think this is a small fish. I really do not want to lose this one. I don't want to lose any, but the first one feels really important. I don't know how many bites you're going to be getting.
With the fish through the worst of the weed, Spoons made his way back to the water's edge to land our first carp of the trip. And this one looked like a rare, big ghost carp.
Come on. Come on. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Yes! That is a big old ghosty. I couldn't believe I'd already caught my first Carces carp. I just had to call Dovey to share my epic news.
You right there, mate?
Oi, oi!
That took you ages to get that in, didn't it?
My God, it went through so many weed beds. It went solid a couple of times as well. And, well, you can just call me the Ghostbuster. I'm going to get...
How big is it?
Maybe mid-50?
No.
We're on a carp fishing tour de France, and after travelling to the south of the country, we are testing our angling skills on a super tricky wild lake. With expectations of a tough time, Spooner had an unexpected early bite and at first sight could well smash our initial 40-pound target.
That's 52. 52.12. That'll do, donkey.
Wow, not only to land one this quickly, but to catch a 50-pound ghost carp, this far surpasses any start we dreamt of.
Oh, look at that for a beast. We said we wanted a 40-pounder to get the ball rolling, but we've jumped straight past that, gone in with a 50.
Spooner's ridiculous achievement has completely obliterated our initial target, so our sights and new target has jumped all the way to £60. The bar was now raised and I was more focused than ever, and after spending the morning watching and observing a large number of carp out in the middle of the lake, past where I'm currently fishing, it was time for a change in approach.
I've decided enough is enough. I can't see these fish showing out there any longer without putting a bait on them. So instead of reeling in this afternoon and finding a spot out there and doing it properly, I'm literally just going to take a boat out exactly where I've seen them show and drop a bait out there.
Not usually my first choice, but with rowing boats banned and out of reach from casting, a bait boat was my only option. But in this situation, it is a real edge, and with the help from the built-in echo sounder, I have quickly located the old riverbed at about 150 yards and have found a clear flat area just past it close to the weed where the carp had been showing.
It feels absolutely perfect.
As well as Dovey's discovery, a storm was brewing, and the weather forecast for tomorrow was set for extreme winds and an unprecedented amount of rainfall.
Horrible conditions for humans are not horrible conditions for carp. They absolutely love rain, heavy winds and all that malarkey. So I've got a real feeling that they are going to turn on when this storm comes.
With the carp located, the weather turning on, Dovey was in the epicentre. Was this going to be the perfect storm?
This feels super heavy at this range. Now, it might be caught in weed. Oh, 1 second, I am shaking. Yes, I've got one on. This is what I love. Been on a massive lake, big warm wind in your face, hopefully a big carp on the end, and loads of time left of the trip.
With the fish so far out and the large presence of weed, the battle to bring it back to the bank is not an easy task. To gain an advantage, Dovey has to get to high ground, and by moving back up the bank, he was able to navigate this carp over and through the weed.
It just feels so heavy, this fish. I'm starting to worry that it's a big catfish. It's not, it's a big carp. Come on. Come on. Go in the net. Go in the net. Go in the net. Yes! Yes! No way. I got one. I can't tell you how excited I am. I can't even talk. What a buzz. That felt so big all the way in. Oh, you are a big fish. There's always so much riding on the first fish, isn't there? You travel hundreds of miles, all of the organising. You never really know what the trip's going to be like until you get that first one in the net. And what a special fish that is. A big old French slab of meat.
At an impressive 41 pounds 11 ounces, it's broken our original target, and Dovey was now off the mark.
That's what a positive start looks like. The weather's coming in. It's going to happen. Something mental's happening. I'm going to say see you later to you, old boy. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, back in Ali's swim, by comparison, it was looking very quiet. And it's important when your mates are catching not to lose your head.
Big balls for the big carp.
Look how rocky my swim is, Mr. Carp. Come on, feel sorry for me.
While Ali has had a slow start, Dovey's rod, which he just put back on his new long spot, is already shredding. We were only expecting a handful of carp between us, so to get 2 bites this quickly is insane. At 32 pounds, it may not be a monster, but it means Dovey's new spot is working.
It's an absolute pristine-looking thing. And what a great way to go into tomorrow. Thanks, old boy. We've got something going here.
The following morning, the rods went back out, and true to forecast, the weather looked ominous, and Storm Alex was definitely on its way. The miserable conditions were symbolic of my mood. I was already feeling the pressure and felt like a million miles away from the action.
Lost out the draw. Wind hacking up the other end. Weeds wiping out my lines. In what feels like a very fishless bay. I'm sure it's not completely fishless, but it certainly feels that way. Life is not good. I'm sure you really want to see me blanking. I don't.
While it does feel like a rough start for Al, it only got better for Dovey. His new spot out long was again producing bites.
I picked this rod up and the fish has gone into the same snag as yesterday.
These battles are intense, with so much weed between me and the carp, getting it in feels 50-50.
Right, we've got movement again. Seems like this fish is coming in.
Knowing what monsters swim in this lake makes every bite the most important one of our lives.
Get in the net. Yes.
An incredible landmark carp was lying in my net. My first 50-pounder from this lake. To catch this already is beyond a joke.
That is so typical of these big French reservoirs. Short, fat, plumpy, really heavy. And to be honest, these weather conditions could not be any better.
While Ali looks on at our unexpected flying start, it's easy to feel like you're having a bad session. But in reality, we are far surpassing all expectations. And for Dovey and myself, the bites kept on coming.
Never thought it was going to be this hectic, if I'm honest. I knew this weather was good, but it's really turned them on.
Even though we're getting bites, landing them is another thing. Without the help from rowing boats, we have to react fast and continually move up and down the banks to get them through the weed.
You're never really sure if there's a fish still on or not. Luckily, this time there is.
The hard work pays off as Spoon lands his second of the trip.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And Dovey nets his third.
Yes.
This carp at 27 pounds is around the average weight of fish found in this lake. Amazingly, it's the smallest one we've caught so far, but Spooner's carp, well, it's another chunk. And at just over 42 pounds, it defies expectations once again.
Now that looks like a proper old dinosaur. I am buzzing with him.
The contrast in my swim was shocking, as my first bite is from a tench. Again, I watch on as the other boys battle the elements, landing more carp.
Yes, Tobe! Yes!
This lake is hard. And with these extreme conditions and insane battles, catching these epic fish is the pinnacle of carp fishing, and we felt like kings.
As I looked on in absolute envy, out of the blue, I had an unexpected bite. The Carces carp gods must be taking pity on me.
Fish! Fish on! Spirits are low in Hamidi at the minute. Suddenly, it feels like a brand new geezer.
Now Ali's got a bite, it's another thing landing it. And with all the weed in front of him, nothing is guaranteed.
Don't go in the weed, please. I will take any sort of carp of any size. Gonna have to go down here. Disaster. It's going in the weed.
The fish had buried itself into a bed of weed between Al and the bank.
Fish is literally there.
There was only one thing to do, and that was to go in after it. So with the help from our good friend and local angler Nico, he waded out with a purpose-made, solid metal-rimmed net to try and land the carp in the mass of weed.
Go on, fall in the net! Fall in the net! We're off to market, Carces! The weed weighs more than the carp, I reckon.
That's meant to be the big carp swim as well.
Well, off the mark with a crazy Carces common carp. Yeah!
Nico clearly not impressed with the size of carp. At least the only way from here is up. Oh, shock. Dovey's in.
Every now and then you just stumble across a mega spot, and this is one of them. It's done me lots of bites now in such a short space of time on a really difficult venue, so I'm just going to keep making the most of it. Whoa. That's a big fish.
We came to this lake for the massive carp that reside here, and with the number of carp Dovey is now having, breaking our 60-pound target is definitely a possibility.
Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Look at the size of that. Oh, my God. Go in there. Oh my God, I'm nearly falling in. That is massive. That is massive. Yes!
It's very rare to see the Dovenelli this excited. Normally, Mr. Calm, is this the carp that's going to beat our £60 target?
Oh my God. So, that is 62 pounds, 8 ounces. What is going on?
Wow, it's hard to put into words what's happening here. This £60 French carp is one of Dovey's biggest achievements in his angling life.
I cannot believe my luck. This is a very, very special fish. A ridiculous day's carp fishing. How could you not love it? Look at that! Oh my God, I'm in my element. 62.5 pounds of wild French reservoir mirror carp. That is the new team target smashed. We're knocking it up to 70 pounds. I feel privileged to catch that.
Our trip at Carces was well and truly off to a flyer, with myself and Dovey shattering our team target twice.
What is going on?
And we were now gunning for a 70-pounder. It was now the start of the weekend and our first full night's fishing was allowed. But these carp must be having a well-deserved rest, as nothing was caught during the night.
First night over, woke up, 3 a.m, realised it weren't going to happen, hadn't had a bite, and then looking up and down this big, weedy terrain, there are no carp about, so I'd love to move. Can't move because the position I want to go in, someone's fishing, so just got to sit tight and hope for the best.
After a night of no activity, it's really important to freshen up your spot with new bait and fresh rigs, as there's a high chance that nuisance fish will have whittled bait away and tangled rigs. Doing this will give you the confidence that you're fishing effectively again.
Literally just redone the rods this morning, as I had nothing all night. Within 10 minutes, got a fish on. I think this is a big fish. Very slow, but also very powerful.
And this fish has done what I expected and weeded me up hard. This is not what I wanted to happen, and there is a chance I'll lose it.
By moving down the bank, Dovey has freed the carp and it looks massive.
It's a big, long common, that is. Oh my God, look at the mouth on it. Oh my God. You look as big as you feel. Yes! Look at that. That's a big common, that is. Don't know what to say. Look at that.
This was a monster, and I had to see it for myself. So leaving my hopeless rods in the good hands of the crew, I came round to see if Dovey had done the unimaginable and broken our ludicrous £70 target. Wow, that's massive. Absolutely massive, geez.
All right, yeah. Done this before, haven't I? Long time ago.
From my experience and by the looks of this carp, it was huge, and expectations of breaking our £70 target felt like they're getting closer. Lifting the carp onto the scales, the numbers rattled up past £60 and read £62, 15 ounces. It's not target broken, but what a colossal creature.
Absolute envy.
The size of it.
Hate you.
Look at the size of it, it's got. Why am I worried about the size of my hook baits? Look at that.
It's madness, isn't it? Size 4 looks tiny in that mouth. Look at the size of that carp. It's probably 3.5 foot long, something like that.
More, well, yeah.
It's absolute madness. We've got a long time yet to go. You just know you're going to get more out there as well, that's the thing.
What is swimming out there, man?
Big uns. If you saw all of the odds written down on paper of us catching the 70-pounder before you come here, you'd say, it's not going to happen. But you'd have said what's happened already was not going to happen.